These images were released by Russia's defense ministry.
Of light and destruction. Their extreme speed, precision, and maneuverability, even mid-flight, means they are highly effective at striking targets and difficult to defend against with existing air defense systems.
The Russian military launched more than 100 ballistic and cruise missiles into Ukraine last night.
Rubble rains down.
They've launched a three-pronged assault from the east, north, and south.
I have seen a terrible war coming to the earth. There was big bombing and a lot of smoke. There was a lot of smoke and bombing.
An oil depot there is on fire after being hit by a Russian missile.
Ukraine says Russian forces have attacked an oil refinery in Lysychansk.
Horrific scene still unfolding there tonight after Russian missiles slammed into a crowded shopping mall in the center of that country.
Tonight, one of the deadliest Russian attacks on Ukraine since this war began. A shopping mall bombed from the sky. The fiery aftermath captured here in video circulating online. Officials declaring the attack in Ukraine's central city of Kremenchuk a mass casualty event. President Zelensky says there were more than 1,000 civilians here at the time.
I saw a lot of war, a lot of gunfire.
This is CNN Breaking News.
There is a historic war coming to the earth. A lot of missiles, attack helicopters, they strike aircrafts.
We saw fighter jets flying over the city this morning as emergency air raid sirens wailed.
I have seen the fighter aircrafts, those Alpha Strike aircraft, they're called Alpha Strike aircrafts. The ones that strike, they go first into the enemy territory. They are the ones who go normally and knock down the anti-aircraft missiles and all of them, the batteries, wherever they are. First of all, disarm them, knock them down, before then the other fleet now comes. operation forces in attack the strike helicopters going also.
Halafu nikaenda zile ndege speciali kabisa katika vikosi, zile helicopters za kulipua.
The Russian invasion was launched with terrifying speed and against a wide range of targets right across the country. The long military build-up around Ukraine's borders finally unleashed by order of the Kremlin. Helicopter gunships, fighter jets, missiles, tanks, convoys of armored vehicles are all involved.
Territorial dispute that is coming. I see UN involvement.
The United Nations General Assembly session witnessed the first such session in 40 years, a rare emergency session, only the 11th in United Nations history.
We are seeing the greatest massing of troops, of missiles, of artillery, and of aircraft capability since 1945. It's clear that the Russian Federation's actions directly threaten this sovereignty, this territorial integrity of Ukraine. We all, each and every one of us, has an obligation to uphold the territorial integrity of other states, to oppose invasions, and to insist on the peaceful resolution of disputes.
86 countries co-sponsored Ukraine's resolution in the General Assembly demanding humanitarian access to civilians and an end to Russia's aggression.
I saw a lot of people running and being refugees, pouring their things out into a refugee camp, and they were looking for food, opening cans and eating old soup and whatever. It was such a situation.
More than 12 million people have now been forced from their homes in search of safety and security, nearly a quarter of the population of Ukraine.
This refugee crisis hasn't happened in Europe on this scale since World War II.
It's hard to describe the enormity of the situation.
Now, by their own admission, the capital Warsaw is just about coping and close to being overwhelmed. At the central station, a sea of people, some just off trains from Ukraine, hungry, thirsty and tired.
In the capital of Warsaw, refugees waited in line for a third day in front of the National Stadium, which has been temporarily turned into an administrative office to register new arrivals.
Arriving in neighboring countries with little more than a suitcase. In Romania, in Moldova, where they've built a tent city.
A lot of people running and being refugees, pouring their things out into a refugee camp, and they were looking for food, opening cans and eating old soup and whatever. It was such a situation.
Hundreds of volunteers handing out soup, offering rides, and a place to stay.
There is a historic war coming to the earth. I have seen a terrible war coming to the earth. There was a lot of smoke and bombing and deaths.
Streets littered with bodies. Civilians look to have been executed in the streets.
Civilians whose hands were bound behind their backs as they were shot in the head. Residents who were out riding a bicycle when they were gunned down. The kind of atrocity that is regarded as a war crime. As these tanks rolled in, civilians were shot in huge numbers, and there is evidence too of 2 mass graves in the city of Bucha. It's just on the outskirts of Kyiv.
Poland has called for an international probe into what it termed a genocide. France also says there's clear indications that Russia committed war crimes.
The images of corpses in civilian clothes left behind by departing Russian troops has prompted calls from officials in Ukraine and Europe for tougher sanctions on Moscow.
In different parts of the town, bodies are also being exhumed from temporary graves. 9 people were buried in these fields next to a local hospital.
This was once a quiet suburb of the Ukrainian capital. Now the town of Bucha is synonymous with death and devastation. On the way in, smashed Russian columns and the bodies of soldiers.
The ordinary and the extraordinary exist side by side here. Rows of bodies outside Bucha's mortuary don't even receive a second glance. People seem desensitized to the death that's dominated their lives for months. These bodies are just lying out in the sun, waiting to be pulled in for examination. And we don't really know anything about who these people were, but it's clear from the very strong smell, it's hard to describe quite how bad it is, that these people have clearly been dead for some time. We then learn Bucha, that's seen some of the war's worst atrocities, has received these bodies from Mariupol, 500 miles away, another place in Ukraine now synonymous with the horrors of this war. These just a tiny fraction of the thousands of people estimated to have died in the city. Were they from the steel plant?
Чи є з Азовсталі тіла?
Та ні, есть.
Yes. All of them.
Всі? Це всі тіла з Азовсталі?
Ну, на данный момент вот это да, сейчас скрывается Азовсталь.
Are they all soldiers? Are they all fighters?
А чи всі це були військові?
Похоже. Похоже, да, що це були військові.
It's taken more than a month for these bodies to reach this point, after the Azovstal steel plant fell in May. They were brought here to help relieve other mortuaries, overwhelmed. We were invited in to the post-mortem examinations. Nothing prepared us for what we would see. The 2 bodies being examined are decomposing from head to toe. You can't make out their faces, but they appear to be young men. Forensic experts in full protective gear use wire to track bullet entry and exit points, while a prosecutor and police collect evidence. No one wants to speak on camera here, and they don't want any of the bodies identified. But it's clear these people are under a lot of pressure. Ukraine is struggling to cope with the number of dead. Outside the mortuary, we're told this lorry is holding more bodies that have been here for 3 weeks. While a local woman arrives in search of her dead brother, it feels a desperate last resort. His answer seems to kill her hope of finding him.
Ми ж нікого не іщемо. Я ж говорю, що це займається все поліція. Ми слідуємо, видаємо документи.
Clutching his passport, she tells us he lay dead on his balcony for 3 to 4 days before he was taken away by the Ukrainian army. There's such a wretched indignity to all this. A family member desperately seeking her brother's body, and bodies whose family members likely have no idea where they lay.
Russian convoy of heavily armoured vehicles lies completely destroyed. It stands testament to the ferocity of the fight. The town was retaken by Ukrainian forces on the 31st of March. It's only now that what happened here can be documented. The scale of destruction is simply too much.